Welcome to the MOOCs course Mechanical Unit Operations. The title of this lecture is Solids Flow Out and their Flow Patterns. So, particularly what we are going to discuss in this lecture is, let us say we have a solid storage container vessel from which the solids are flowing out. So, what kind of flow patterns may be developed inside those storage vessels, etc., and then how the stresses or pressure distribution varies from location to location. Those kind of details we are going to see in this particular lecture. So, let us say if you wanted to have a flow out of bins for the solids, if you wanted to have the solids flow out of bins, so what kind of options in general you think of? You think of having solids flow out, through an opening near the bottom, usually, preferably, and then best discharge option is an opening in the floor, like we have a kind of storage vessel like silo or hopper or something like this. So, let us say you have a silo like this. In this one you have a kind of the solids which you wanted to take out as per your requirement, right. So, there is a opening, right. So, there may be a kind of wall here. Okay, when you open this one, so then how the flow pattern will change, that is what you see. So, actually in general this is a kind of these hoppers are in kind of symmetric or axisymmetric or non-symmetric plane geometries they may have. We have already seen, we are going to see those geometries once again in this lecture. So, these are in general supported with a kind of supporting thing, and then supporting stands like pillars kind of things are available, right. So, these pillars are deep rooted onto the into the earth, right. So, whatever the material that you want, you take here in a kind of container, and then you whatever the material that you get here, you may take it into the tractors or elevators or something like that, so that you can take to the next unit operations wherever they are required, right. So, the floor is in general mentioned by these kind of slanted or inclined surfaces or hopper surfaces that we are having, right. So, you can have a kind of opening anywhere from the sides, also from the bottom, anywhere from this area you can have a kind of solids out, but it is always best to have a kind of opening in the floor, something like that, this, so that you can have a kind of best discharge possible, right. So, this is a symmetrical hopper we have drawn here. If you have a kind of a non-symmetric plane hopper, something like that, so then it not necessarily be at the bottom, it may be somewhere else, and then those things one has to see as per the kind of these requirements, right. Flow through side opening is also possible, but it is always gives a kind of uncertain flow rate. You may not have a kind of certainty in the mass flow rate of the solids that you wanted to get, and then that may always increase the lateral pressure on the other side of the bin while solids are flowing. Actually, once again we draw the same thing here. So, whatever the bins are there, so most of the pressure, the load is been taken by the floors, some like pillars kind of things in general, right. So, what happens when you have a kind of opening not at the bottom, but somewhere in the side, something like this, that can also possible depending on the type of the solids that you are handling. So, this is also possible, but what happens when you do this one, some of the stress goes on to the walls of this container. On these container walls the stress will be increasing, right. So, that is not going to be helpful in general, because these are the kind of things are designed once in a while. You do not change every often as per the change of the operating conditions, etc. You cannot change as and when you required, or you feel like they are designed once in a while for a kind of, or at the beginning of the designing of the chemical plants, right. So you will be having difficulty in changing these orientations, etc. very often. So it is better to decide at the beginning of the design itself, right. So let us say when you are filling this is again we are going to discuss again in the stress distributions. So when you are filling the solids, a kind of vertical stress distributions are possible in these sections, and then slightly vertical inclined kind of the pressure distribution is possible inside the bins, right. But when you are opening from the sides like this, what happens, a kind of lateral contraction of the solids may take place, and then distributions may be something like this, so that distribution may not be helpful, especially with respect to the walls of the container. So that is on other side of the bin, definitely it is going to have a kind of more pressure, so that is not going to be useful anyway. So that is the reason, though it is possible to have a kind of openings in the sides, but it is not preferable because of these two reasons. One is the you will not be certain about the flow rates, and another one is that the lateral pressure may be increasing on the other side of the bin while the material is flowing out. Okay. So these details of this pressure distributions, stress distributions, etc. we are going to see very soon now, but however this is one of the reason that you do not prefer to have a kind of side opening. Bottom outlets are going to be better options because of the reasons that they are less likely to clog and does not induce abnormally high pressure on the wall at any point. So here, like if you have side opening, so then the pressure may be low here at this on this particular wall, but on the other walls the pressure may be very high. So because of that one, so a kind of abnormality of the pressure you can see from one point to other point. But if you have a kind of bottom outlet, so such kind of abnormality of the pressure you may not expect, you may not be having, right. Even if you are having, it may be having only for very specified reason that will also be discussing anyway when we discuss about the stress distributions. So because of these two reasons, it is better to have bottom outlets because they are less likely to clog, and then there will not be any abnormally high pressures at any locations on the walls of the bins at any point. So now let us say when you have a kind of particular flow out of bins, the solids flow out of bins, and then having the outlet at the bottom, what kind of flow patterns you may expect, that is what you can we are going to see. So depending on the steepness of the hopper, and then depending on the friction between the solids and then wall of the bins, different types of flow patterns are possible. So those flow patterns we are going to see. However, before going to the flow patterns, in general, the silo is a generic term for particular solid storage vessel, right. So ever since 1960s there have been since early 1960s there have been several terms for flow patterns in silos, bin and hoppers have become very common. So we are going to see some of them now. So as I mentioned, steepness of walls and then friction coefficient between solids and then the wall of the container or the bins is going to have a kind of very important role in the type of flow pattern that is going to be developed while the solids are being flowing out. So when you have these hoppers, right, initially maybe they are compact packed properly. Let us say when you open this wall, let us not call it wall, probably wall is specifically for the kind of in general used for the liquids. So you have a kind of feeder, whatever this opening through which the material goes out, that is known as the feeder, is with respect to the this storage and conveying of the solids, right. Feeder is not something that is coming in here from the top, that we do not call a kind of feeder. So the gate at the bottom, that is opening whatever we have at the bottom, that we call it as a kind of feeder. Okay. So initially the pressure may be laterally, pressure may be vertically align in a direction, the solids are contracting in a vertical direction, right. So, when you open the channel at the bottom, the flow may be taking place. So, because of that one the pressure variations etc., will be there, right. So, and then when the flow is going out, depending on the solids as well as the friction between the solids and then these walls, whatever the solids that you have, right. So, that is the solids, and then the interaction the friction between the solids and then container wall whatever is there. So, that one is one of the important factor along with the steepness of the walls, right. So, how steep are the walls? So, that is also going to have a kind of role, what kind of pattern that is going to be developed inside this storage vessel. So, those different possibilities of flow patterns we are going to see now. So, in general 3 types of flow patterns are possible in symmetrical geometry. We are discussing in general to symmetrical geometry. When you have the non-symmetric plane geometries, the things may be different because of the locations of the outlet etc., and the non-symmetric nature. So, we are not discussing. So, in general we are discussing here in this particular lecture about the symmetrical geometry. Okay. So, in symmetrical geometry 3 types of flow patterns are possible. One is the mass flow, another one is the funnel or tunnel flow, and then third one is the expanded flow. Now, we are going to see details of each and every type of these flow patterns. Let us start with the mass flow patterns. Mass flow pattern, it is common in hoppers of sufficiently steep, that is cone bottom bins with tall and steep cone and smooth surfaces. Wherever we have a kind of the steep cone like this conical section, not only this one, but if this section also not only cylindrical, but the conical section is also steep one, then what happens, we have a kind of a mass flow pattern may be possible in general, right. So, this is the opening, and then in addition to that one, the surfaces of this wall surface should be smooth in the sense that should not be offering a more friction to the solids. So, if the friction is more, so then whatever the layers of the particles are there close to the solid walls, they are very difficult to flow and they may not be flowing comfortably. So, that is the reason it is beneficial to have a smooth surface. So, if you have a hopper sufficiently steep, that is cone bottom bins with tall and steep cone and smooth surfaces, you may expect to have a kind of mass flow pattern for a free flowing material in general. So, the schematic of such kind of geometry is shown here. Mass flow pattern, mass flow bins are shown here. So, this is what we have here. The diameter of this silo is the height of the material, the head of the solids is capital H. HCR is the critical height, critical depth, up to which, which is sufficient, which is necessary to start a kind of a mass flow. So, theta is the cone angle that we are having, B is the size of the opening that we have at the bottom. So, in this kind of mass flow bins, we have a mass flow pattern. What happens here? Moment you open the opening here, open it. So, then what you have? You expected to have the material, all the material smoothly coming out without any kind of problem. As a kind of any kind of restrictions is not going to occur, and then there will not be any kind of obstruction in the flow, and then flow would be a kind of smooth flow you can have. You can have a kind of smooth flow without any kind of stagnation. Stagnation in the sense, sometimes what happens, some material may be sticking to some wall and then a kind of bridging kind of things may also take place. Those kind of problems are there, so in some other geometries, but when you have the mass flow pattern, those kind of things are not going to occur. So, that is they cause the flow of all solids in the bin without stagnant regions during the discharge. When you start opening, the flow would be initiated each moment the very first layer at the bottom comes out, a kind of disturbance created, and then that will be transferring to the entire area, the solids occupied area, and then the entire material will be under a kind of certain kind of flow condition, right. Solids are in motion at every point within the bin whenever the material is drawn from outlet. So that is what such a kind of free flow kind of flow pattern is possible in this kind of mass flow. Flow is further uniform. You can expect a kind of uniform flow rate. You may not expect to have a kind of varying flow rate, those kind of things. In general, what will happen, you if you do not have them for complete mass flow rate, then you may not have a kind of a uniform flow rate at different intervals. Whereas in the mass flow pattern bins, if the in these kind of bins, if the mass flow pattern is developed, then flow would be uniform irrespective of the time, except the initial initial time that is required to develop the steady state. Mostly the flow would be a kind of uniform nature. And then in general, the bulk density of solids is dependent on the head of the solids in general, but if you have a kind of a mass flow pattern in the bins, then it is possible that the bulk density may be independent of the head of the solids. Head of the solids is like kind of whatever the H, that is the head of the solids. So if you have a mass flow pattern, the bulk density might not be depending on this H. So in this picture, D is the diameter of the silo, H is the average depth of the material, HCr is critical depth to initiate flow in mass flow pattern, theta is the Harper angle, whatever Harper slope, and then beta and B is bottom aperture opening. Right. So other details of the mass flow patterns, if you see, mass flow pattern gives complete discharge at predictable flow rates. You are not going to have any kind of a stagnation in general if you have a mass flow pattern. So there is not no material is going to be retained in the container. So if you have sometimes very cohesive materials and then flow is not mass flow, then flow is not a free flow kind of thing, then it is possible that when even in the wall is fully open, there may be some material sticking to the wall or some material may be at the stagnant region, etc. So but if you have the mass flow pattern, it is possible to have that the entire material, the complete discharge is possible, entire material can be taken out comfortably, because once you start the material drawing out, what happens, the motion would be developed in the entire solid material that is retained inside the silo. So the motion is there everywhere in the container, so that will ensure the material to flow out completely without staying inside the container, inside this thing. Properly designed mass flow bin remix solids during discharge, even if segregation occurs during the filling. Sometimes when you fill, these containers are they are having two parts, you have to fill and then store sometime. You may not be taking them, drawing them immediately. You may be storing for some days, sometimes some weeks, something like that, depending on the nature of the material and nature of the operation that is being carried out subsequently, and the nature of the solids that have been stored. Right. So the duration may be a few days to few weeks, few months also it is possible. Right. So sometimes while filling, a kind of segregation may take place, but if these mass flow bins are properly, if they are properly designed, a kind of remix of solids will take place during the discharge. So that will ensure there will not be any kind of material retained inside the container when you are aiming to have a kind of complete discharge, that is you can get the complete discharge. Mass flow bins are more suitable in general for cohesive materials, because cohesive materials in general very difficult to flow. If you have a hoppers or mass flow bins are designed such a way that can ensure you a kind of a mass flow pattern. So then it is always better to use such kind of material, cohesive material. Such kind of bins should be used for cohesive material, because cohesive materials, what happens, they coagulate amongst them and then form a kind of bigger lumps or something like that. So then it is always better to have a mass flow bins for such kind of materials. Otherwise, what happens in general, let us say we have a kind of a bins like this, right? Even if you have a bottom opening, something like this at the bottom. So if your material is a kind of a cohesive material, if a material is a kind of cohesive material, sometimes what happens when you open the gate or when you operate the feeder to take the material outside, then what happens, whatever the material in this region is there, that may be drawn out. But beyond this one, they may be forming a kind of bridge kind of thing, something like this, bridge kind of thing they form. So, that is though the material, whatever the material here in this bottom portion is there, though that has been taken away, has been gone out of the container. So, because of the sticky nature of the material, the kind of bridging of the material will take place, and then those bridging is so strong that they can uplift the weight of the material that is resting on those bridges. So, that is kind of big problem in this cohesive material. So if you have a kind of bins where mass flow can be ensured, so then such kind of cohesive sticky material may be taken inside those bins, so that we can avoid this kind of bridging effect, and then one can have a kind of undisturbed flow of the solids to the subsequent operations. They are also good for materials which degrade with time. We are going to see in the other kind of materials, what flow patterns, what happens sometimes, some flow patterns, these materials, though you have a material completely like initially when you not drawing it, it is filled like this, but when you are started drawing out the material solids out of it, what happens, a kind of these kind of rat holes are formed. Actually, what happens, the material just above the opening whatever is there, that passes out, and then it forms a kind of a vertical column like this, that material is comes out through columns like this. So, that is the top layer material comes out and goes out through this column only, whereas the material bottom which has reached first while filling, that goes very last. So, these kind of problems are there. So, this so such kind of so that is in a kind of stagnation kind of things occurs in here, like so this material, the material here at the center through column that is flowing, but the material which is at the these surfaces, they are stagnant, so they are not going to leave in general, though the material above it may be passing out, right. So, if the material is degrading, and then this flow if you are doing for a kind of week or something like that, or after a week you are doing, so that material whatever the stagnant region, whatever the material captured in the stagnant region is there, so that may be degrading, right. You do not want degrading of the material. If some portion of the material is degrading, it is always going to be affecting the subsequent operations, or it is going to degrade the remaining solid materials as well, right. So, that is the reason if you have a kind of material which may degrade with respect to time, if you store for a longer time, so if that is going to degrade under such conditions, it is always better to have a kind of a mass flow bin, so that the material can easily conveniently come out of the bins. And then fine powders and particulates which are required to be prevented from segregation. If you do not wish, or your operation is such a way that you do not prefer to have a kind of segregation of the material, so then it is also preferred to have a kind of mass flow bins. So, depending on the hopper shape and an associated flow pattern, the mass flow bins are classified as a conical bins and wedge or kitchell shaped bins. These conical bins are also known as the axisymmetric flow or the axisymmetric hoppers that we have already seen here. So, where we have a kind of a cylindrical section, and then conical hopper is there, cylindrical steep bin is there, to which kind of a conical bottom section is there. So, such kind of things are known as the axisymmetric flow, where the center axis of opening as well as the container are aligning to the same vertical line like this. Okay. So, the plane flows are you may not be having a kind of cylindrical column, but you may be having a column like these sections are shown here like this, right. Okay. So, that way you can make sure here also the center of the opening and then center line of the top section are again aligning into the same vertical line. So, then that is the reason they are known as the symmetrical plane flow. But you may have a kind of other designs, right. So, like not a regular shape, something like this as shown here in the picture C. So, where you are not expected to have the center line of the opening and then center line of the this container aligning to the same line. They are not aligning to the same line, they are different. So, that is the reason they are non-symmetrical plane flows, right. Further, from the pictures also we can understand that this theta here, that is the Hopper the cone angle that we have in general. So, now the pictorially also we can see that the theta in the B section or the B figure, the symmetrical plane flow is slightly higher than the theta in a axisymmetric flow, right. So, this additional theta what it does, it provides additional storage capacity for the material. But however, in this kind of plane flow geometry you need to have a kind of long slanted kind of feeders like shown here, which is not required here in the case of axisymmetric flow. So, this is going to be a kind of a disadvantage. So, whatever the advantage of having the additional storage capacity because of this higher theta value in the case of symmetric plane flow, that is going to be offset because of the slanted long feeder design. Okay. So, this we have already seen, but however, we once again seen them. As I mentioned, in plane flow beams, slope to the vertical of Hopper is 8 to 10 degrees larger than the corresponding value for axisymmetric beams with conical Hoppers. So, it offer extra storage capacity than axisymmetric beams for the same headroom, but this advantage is offset by long slotted openings needed, which may cause feeding problems in plane symmetric flow beams. Then next one is the funnel flow pattern. It occurs when the hopper is not sufficiently steep or the wall surface of this container is not smooth to force bulk solids to slide along the walls. It can also occur in other conditions where the outlet of bin is not fully effective, maybe because of poor design of the feeder or outlet. So, it may be not effectively fully effective. Then also the outlet is not fully effective, then also it is possible that you may have the funnel flow pattern. So, what is funnel flow pattern? So, initially vertical channel of solids above the openings moves downward without disturbing the material at the sides, right. So, like shown here. Now, what happens at the opening, whatever the material, that material just above the opening just above the feeder, whatever that material is there, that falls out as a kind of vertical column, vertical channel like this, almost vertical. It may not be exactly vertical, but almost vertical like this, without disturbing this material, whatever the material here in this region. So, it is not being disturbed. Only thing that it is whatever the material just above the opening, that is coming out as a kind of a vertical column as shown here like this. Then the lateral flow begins from the topmost layer of the solid. So, then what happens after having a kind of a vertical channel, it is also known as the rat holes in general. So, once this is forming, so then what happens, the lateral motion. So, the particles are initially they are like a horizontal surface like this, then lateral motion start from the topmost layer of the solids like this, and then those materials flow out through these rat holes only, through this vertical channel whatever is there. So, like this they flow out, and then the material goes out like this. Okay. So, there will be a kind of conical depression at the surface of solid mass, and then here again the d is diameter, h is the average depth of the material, hd is the dynamic flow depth in funnel flow, theta is the Hopper angle, beta is the aperture opening, right. So, here in this process what happens, let us say this material has been withdrawn. Now, it is shown as a kind of two sections, let us say this one section, up to this section the material is withdrawing, or you might have established a kind of steady flow rate, let us say. Then if you are continuously adding the material at the same rate at which you are collecting the materials out, that is let us say m dot O, and then let us say m dot I, so after establishing the steady flow rate, you are allowing this additional material you are pouring, that is Mi dot is equals to approximately equal to Mo dot, right. So, then what happens? So, the flow pattern will be like this material, whatever this material stagnant at the slanted walls here in this close to the opening here in the side walls close to the opening. So, this material will not be disturbed, whereas the additional material will continuously flowing out like these things. So, whatever this material that is not being disturbing or that is staying there as a kind of stagnant layer, that is known as the kind of dead capacity, that is the known as a kind of dead capacity, or that is the material that is going to flow out last at the last. So, though this material has entered the container at the beginning, but it is going in the last, like after all the material has been drawn from the top, then only this material may be going out. So, this is what known as the funnel flow. So, then solids at bin floor or near walls are the last one to leave. So, material slides laterally into central column at an angle approximately the angle of internal friction of solids. So, this slanting, whatever the materials they are falling down like this, they are coming down like this. So, they are coming down at a kind of certain angle. This angle is approximately equal to the internal friction angle of the solids or angle of internal friction of solids. So, as I mentioned, if additional material is added at the top of the bin at the same rate as material is flowing out from the bottom, then solids near the walls at the bottom remain stagnant and do not discharge irrespective of the time of flow. Whatever the time of flow you allow, that material is not going to flow, and then that is known as the dead capacity or dead storage. So, for complete discharge of solids, the bin outlet opening should be at least equal to critical rat hole dimensions. So, whatever the vertical channel they are as a vertical channel the material is going out. So, that channel is known as a kind of a rat hole, and then it is having certain dimensions, and then you will be surprised to know that rat hole dimension may be several meters in general. It not necessarily be very small, it may be of several meters. So, what is the opening requirement? So, the opening should be at least equal to or more than the dimension of the rat hole or the vertical channel column diameter, whatever is that much that bigger opening you should have, so that you can have a complete discharge of solids from this funnel flow bins. For many cohesive solids, rat holes up to several meters height have been observed experimentally, and because of this rat hole formation and then the material flowing getting into the bins first, but going in the last, because of this one or because of the dead storage and rat hole formation, the control of solids discharge rate is quite difficult, and because of this reason funnel flow is found to be somewhat impractical. However, the funnel flow has advantage of providing wear protection of bin walls as material flows against stationary material. Okay. So, because of that one it provides a kind of wear protection of the bin walls. Though it is the only advantage of the funnel flow, there are several disadvantages, something like the so called first in last out flow pattern, that is the material which enters first is leaving last after the rest all the material top material is flowing out, then only it is leaving. So, that is what first in last out flow pattern is unsatisfactorily, especially for fine bulk solids of low permeability. Such materials can aerate during the discharge through flow channel, and this may give rise to flooding problems or uncontrolled discharge. That is the other problem associated with this funnel flow bins. Then they are more prone to cause arcing of cohesive solids than the mass flow bins, and they usually require larger outlets for dependable flow. As I mentioned, so these kind of material, if you have the funnel flow kind of bins, or the bin is designed such a way that a kind of funnel flow is developing. For this funnel flow, the flow itself is not a kind of reliable or good one. In addition to that one, if you have taken a kind of cohesive material, right, then what happens, it is possible that it may be forming a kind of bridging or arcing kind of thing may be forming, where below the arcing layer of the solids are passing out, whereas the material above it, that is lifted by the, or that is held by these bridges of the cohesive materials, and then that is, those bridges are not allowing the solids to pass through. So, that is the another problem of this funnel flow, especially if you take cohesive material in this kind of funnel flow bins. Okay. It may cause segregation of solids and are unsuitable for solids that degrade with time in stagnant regions. So, it is clear that along the hopper walls, whatever the material is there at the solid walls, that is going lost. So, that is going to stay longer time in the bin. So, because of that one, if the material is a kind of degrading material with respect to time, it is not going to be helpful. Another disadvantage is that cleanouts of a funnel flow bin is often uncertain, because solids in the stagnant region may pack and cake. So, whatever the material on the hopper walls, that is on these walls, that is being forming a kind of stagnant layer kind of thing, this material over the time what happened, they may become packed because of the compaction kind of thing, and they may have a kind of cake formation, etc. kind of thing is also possible, especially if you have a cohesive material of very small size. So, then even if you draw out the entire material, that material may be sticking there only because of the packing and caking formation kind of thing, and then that is because of that reason complete clean out of funnel flow bins is also very difficult, very uncertain. So, the funnel flow bins are suitable only for coarse, free flowing or slightly cohesive, not strongly cohesive. You cannot ensure that completely free flowing material in general. So, most of the material may be free flowing, but they are still having some amount of cohesive nature. So, slightly cohesive, coarse, free flowing materials, non degrading solids, when especially segregation is not going to affect the quality of the solids, then the funnel flow bins can be used for those kind of thing, right. Okay. So, for the mass flow bins, you can use any kind of material, especially if you have cohesive material, then you go for a kind of mass flow bins, right. If you have a kind of coarser material, you can use any one, but it is preferable to have a kind of funnel flow bins. Then next one is the expanded flow pattern. It combines the characteristics of both mass flow and funnel flow bins, where higher part of the hopper operates in funnel flow pattern, whereas the lower part operates in mass flow pattern kind of thing. So, pictorially if you see, it looks something like this. Now, what we have, rather having one hopper angle, we have a kind of two hopper angles here. So, when you know the characteristic dimension, critical dimension of the rat holes in general for a funnel flow, so then below that one you can have a kind of another hopper kind of thing like this, where you can have a kind of mass flow kind of things. So, it is a kind of a modification of funnel flow also we can say, so that to avoid the some of the disadvantages of the funnel flow that we have seen. Right here, mass flow outlet requires a smaller feeder than the case of funnel flow. Thus, mass flow hopper should expand the flow channel to a diagonal or a diameter equal to or greater than critical rat hole diameter, so that mass flow can take place, and then above which the material can flow comfortably. So, that will be eliminating or reducing the chances of rat hole formation. So, then the expanded flow bins provide both the advantages of funnel flow and then mass flow bins. What is the advantage of the funnel flow bins? That it provides the wall protection. Wear protection for the walls it is providing, because the most of the material is being handled by the whatever the discharging material. Okay. And then mass flow, what is the advantage of the mass flow? It provides the reliable discharge, uniform flow it provides. So, both the uniform discharge as well as the wall protection can be obtained by this expanded flow. right. So, which are the individual advantages of the mass flow and then funnel flow, but if you combine together here in expanded flow, you can expect both of them to have. So, expanded flow is ideal where large tonnage of non-degrading bulk solids needs to be stored while maintaining the acceptable head heights. Expanded flow concept may be used to advantage in the case of bins or bunkers with multiple outlets. If you have more than one outlets, then also it is this concept is going to be useful. Expanded flow bins are also useful as a modification of existing funnel flow bins to correct the erratic flows caused by arcing, rat holing or flushing that we have seen in the case of funnel flow. Whatever the arcing may take place because of the cohesive material taken in a kind of funnel flow, or whatever the rat holing kind of things are going to form in general in a funnel flow, those kind of thing causing some kind of errors in the kind of discharge flow rate or the outlet solids flow rate. You may not have a kind of uniform constant flow rate with respect to time. So, that can be avoided by modifying the funnel flow using this expanded flow concept. So, now flow of granular solids. In general, what are the requirements? Flow of granular solids through circular opening depends on the diameter of opening and properties of solids. In general, it does not depend on the height of the bed of the solids, and for free flowing particles, the rate of solids flow approximately proportional to B cube, where B is the diameter of the opening, that the feeder opening or the dimension of the feeder. Whereas in the case of cohesive solids, flow of cohesive solids is very hard, very difficult to maintain, because a column of solids above the outlet moves out as a plug, leaving a rat hole with nearly vertical slides, as we have seen in a kind of a funnel flow pattern. So, that especially happens with respect to the cohesive solids. And in sticky solids and even some dry powders adhere strongly to vertical surface and then have enough shear strength to support a plug of considerable diameter above the opening. That is the reason, in order to have a continuous flow of granular material, often following accessories are needed, something like vibrators on the bin walls. If you have the vibrators at the bin walls, you can vibrate so that the material whatever is sticking or stagnating on the walls, that can be taken away and then that can flow out. Eventually, that will avoid or reduce the rat hole concept, rat hole formation. You can also have internal plows near the bin floor, and then you can also have jets of air in the discharge opening, so that to avoid the arcing kind of phenomena. Then what should be the outlet opening requirements? Specific outlet requirements should be calculated based on the design concepts of these things, but however, in general what you expect to have the outlet, what you expect the outlet to perform, it should be small enough to be readily closed when solids are flowing, yet not so small that material may be clogging, but opening should be large enough to pass the full desired flow. Even half of it is open, not completely open, even half of the wall or the feeder is open, you must have a kind of desired flow rate. So, that large should be the opening requirement, and then it can be opened further to clear any partial choking if it is there. But the opening is too large, then shut off wall may not be possible. If you have two bigger openings and then materials are coming in tens of kgs per second or something like that, that is going to affect the subsequent process. So, you cannot close it immediately. So, you cannot afford to have a very large opening. So, it should be optimum. It should not be very small that clogging kind of take place. It should not be very large that closing of wall becomes very difficult, or by the time you close the wall lot of material is flowing out. So, those kind of things should not be there, it should be very optimum. That is what you expect to have outlet opening requirements. Then most important thing is wall stresses in axis symmetrical bins. We are going to take only axis symmetrical bins, some discussions we will be doing, right. So, estimation of load on walls of a bin is important for their design, because in order to design bin structure efficiently and economically, it is required to estimate the pressure at the walls. So, that is going to decide whether the constructed silo or harbor is of sufficient strength or not to withhold so much of material at static as well as the dynamic conditions. So, based on this pressure distribution or the how much pressure is there on the walls, etc. So, based on those calculation only one is going to decide how much material one can store in a kind of container, and then what flow rate one can take the material, because both the static and dynamic conditions are very important, and both of them are going to have effect on the pressure on the walls of the bins, right. So, that is the reason this pressure calculation is going to be very crucial in the design of these solid storage vessels. Okay. There are several analytical and numerical approaches are available for measuring the pressures. In general, so many numerical things are available. So, using the numerical simulation packages, one can estimate the pressure at each and every location inside the bin, both in the static as well as the dynamic conditions, and then one can have a kind of a clear picture how this pressure is varying point to point, right. However, load is directly proportional to the what kind of flow pattern is there inside the silo when the discharge is started, or when the feeder is open to take out the material out. So, then what kind of a flow pattern is existing inside the bin, that is again going to have a kind of a very important role on this pressure. Flow pattern in mass flow bins, as we understand, is relatively easy to predict than in the funnel flow bins. Thus, it is important that you can have a simple and symmetric bins rather having kind of chisel shaped bins, etc. So, it is always better to have simple and symmetric hoppers. And then many research results indicated that the stress distributions are different both in the filling stage as well as in the discharging stage. During the initial filling and during the discharging stage, whatever the pressure is there, that is going to be different, or the stress is going to be different. While solids are charged in empty bins with the gate closed or feeder at the rest, solids settle as their head rises, as shown here picture. We have two pictures, one in the case of filling, another one in the case of emptying. We have a kind of silo here, at the bottom there is a gate or a feeder that is closed initially when you are filling. When you fill the material, what happens? Material comes, as you draw in the material, then what happens? The solids height rises, and then these solids, they contract vertically, and then a kind of almost a vertical pressure distribution, vertical stress distribution you can see almost like these vertical lines up to this part at least, right. So, almost vertical things you can see here, because the solids contract vertically at least up to this point, and after this point also almost like kind of it is, if not exactly vertical, almost kind of vertical contraction of the solids you can see. So, the pressure will also be in the same direction, in the similar pattern only, right. So, whatever the stress distributions are there in these conditions, they are known as the active or peaked stress field, right. Now, when you open this bottom opening, right, open it, so then you have like this, you are opening, so the material you are collecting like this. Then what happens? So, then here, so at least in this portion, that is in the conical section, not in the cylindrical section, in the conical section whatever the material is there, that is moving laterally, that is mostly moving a kind of a lateral motion is there, and then material contracting in the lateral direction. So, the stress is also moving in a kind of lateral direction. So, these stress fields are known as the passive or arced field. And then above it, what happens, the whatever the active or peaked stresses are there. So, at this location just above this conical section, in the previous case just above the conical section they are almost vertical, but here they are not vertical, they are somewhat arced to certain more distance like this, right. So, because the material is flowing, the material contracting in the lateral direction. So, then the stresses are also distributing in the lateral direction. So, this because of the lateral contraction, the stresses are arc direction shown like this here. So, this is what happens in general. This is how the pressure distribution is different while filling as well as the emptying as well. Okay. So, while filling, solids contract vertically in the cylindrical section and partially vertically in the hopper section, that is the conical section at the bottom. Thus, major stress tends to align with the direction of contraction of solids, forming active or peaked stress field, and in this stress field valid under the assumption that the solids are charged into bin without significant impact to cause packing. So, they are just filling without, we are not considering the research results that we proposed discussed in the previous figure. Having this kind of assumption that the solids are charged into bin without significant impact to cause any kind of packing of the material. Packing of the material is not taking place, that is the material coming in, one solid particles are coming in lying onto the others without having any kind of compact or without causing any kind of compact packing while the filling. Solids are charged at sufficiently low rates so that they aerate, and then bin and feeder are designed correctly for solids to flow without any obstruction. This is very important. If the feeder and then bins, both of them are not properly designed, then we can have a kind of funnel flow kind of things, and then things may be very different. So, whatever the things that stresses that we are discussing, mostly valid kind of mass flow patterns where the free flowing of the material is taking place. If the bin and then feeder are not properly designed, so then it is not possible to have a kind of mass flow pattern. So, you may experience a kind of a funnel flow pattern. So, those kind of things are absent as per this analysis. We are not considering those problems. Then when the gate is fully opened or the feeder operates so that solids start flowing out through the outlet, there is vertical expansion of solids within the forming flow channel, and flowing mass of solids contract laterally within that hopper region or within that conical section that we have seen. And then major stresses within the flow channel tend to align with lateral contraction, and then stress field is said to be passive or arced. When the solids flow out, the region of switch from active to passive stress field originates at the outlet of the bin and rapidly moves upward into the bin, as shown in the picture that I have shown already. Like here, when you are taking the material, so then whatever the lateral motion is there, so that causes a kind of the switching of this region. So, up to initially it is up to this point, it is almost kind of vertical, but because of this one, the vertical motion is being disturbed up to certain location. So, the switching of active to arced field is taking place up to this region, but it starts at the outlet and then it moves upward rapidly. So, finally, what we see 5 stress fields during the filling and discharging sequences of a silo where simple mass flow pattern is taking place. So, what are they? Once again, to recapitulate, in cylindrical section during initial filling where the stress is peaked or active, that is in the cylindrical section while filling, and then again in the cylindrical section, but during emptying where the stress is either peaked or changes to arced, because when the material is drawing out, whatever the lateral movement is there, that is happening taking place at the bottom, and then that is rapidly moving up. Because of that one, the switch over from active to passive, that is going to take place, because of that one, some of the peaks may not be active, but they are arced even in the cylindrical section while emptying the column, while drawing out the solids. Then the converging hopper section, conical section during the filling where the stress is peaked almost vertical, those kind of things we have seen. Then again converging hopper section, but during emptying where the stress is arced, a kind of lateral contraction is taking place, and then stress is having a kind of arc shape. And then finally, the region in the bin where peaked stress field established during initial filling is transferred into arced stress field. So, these kind of 5 stress field that we have seen in pictorially also, the same thing are presented as a kind of summary here. Further, equations for vertical pressure, horizontal pressure and wall stresses in axisymmetrical hoppers and the details of stresses in other type of hoppers are discussed thoroughly in this reference book Ortega Rivas. So, those things we are not going to see, those design equations etc. we are not going to see because they are not required at the UG level, but however if someone interested may go through this book to find more details. The references are unit operations of chemical engineering by McCabe, Smith and Harriet, then unit operations of particulate solids theory and practice by Ortega Rivas. Most of the details presented in this lecture have been taken from this second book. A few details are also taken from this first book McCabe, Smith and Harriet. Other reference books we have Carlson and Richardson's Chemical Engineering Series, second volume by Richardson and Harker, then Transport Processes and Unit Operations by C.J. Giancopoulos, then Unit Operations by Brown et al., and finally Introduction to Chemical Engineering by Badger and Banchero. Thank you.